The Memorial Cup and the New York Islanders prospect pool aren't really strangers. As you'll remember, Noah Dobson has won two, and William Sfoll just won it last year. So looking at this year's Memorial Cup, are there any Islanders prospects that could win the thing? The answer to that question is there are four Islanders prospects who could win the Memorial Cup. One will definitely be going to the Memorial Cup because they're hosting it, and three have varying degrees of potential to get to the Memorial Cup. Now, if you're not sure what the Memorial Cup is, it's the Canadian Hockey League's championship, if you will. It's a tournament comprised of four different teams. You got the host team, and then the champions from each respective regions: the Ontario Hockey League, the Western Hockey League, and the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. The champions of those three regions meet in the host city along with the host, and they battle it out over, like, I don't know, a couple of games type of thing. They each play each other once, and then there's a playoff type thing, and then they crown champion of the Canadian Hockey League. Let's go over the three prospects who could, make their way to the Memorial Cup. And even then, within those three, only one, maximum of one, will be going to the Memorial Cup because they're all coming from the same region, and that's the Ontario Hockey League. Now, the first prospect is Isaiah George, who plays for the London Knights. And now the London Knights have already locked up not only a playoff spot, but they've locked in their division with 84 points from 59 games, 235 goals, 177 goals against. Excellent defensive record, clearly not the best offensive record, but, decent enough, clearly. They almost seem like the New York Islanders of the Ontario Hockey League, where they're just going to win games kind of like 3-2, maybe 3-1, and that's good enough for them. A win's a win, right? The prospect there, as I mentioned, was Isaiah George, and he's a fourth-round pick from 2022. And if you're not new to the channel, or if you're a veteran of the channel, he's not a new name to you. Or even if you're someone who kind of follows the Islanders, which I assume you all are, this is not a new name. This is a player who impressed at the 2022 training camp, and they kept him around for a long time. Longer than you would imagine other OHL prospects sticking around. Of course, he was injured, so they didn't have to send him back necessarily, but they liked what they saw, and so they wanted to keep him around for a while. Now, when you look at the production, 18 points in 45 games, you're saying this isn't a guy who's putting a lot of pucks in the net, and that's true. He's not, but that's not really his game. Isaiah George is more of a controlling defenseman, and when I say that, I'm being deliberate with my words, because I don't want to make it seem like he's a defensive defenseman, as in he's out there breaking ribs. He's defense first, but his game is he's a hell of a skater.
On for Isaiah George. In behind the net, stops up against Zilkin. Penalties have expired, so we're back to 5-on-5. Here's Isaiah George. Trapping his way down the wing, trying to go coast to coast. He scores! Isaiah George!
He can skate the puck out of trouble, and he can break up plays along the blue line. And those are vital skills as the game transitions into a more, into a faster game. You need players who can skate and break up plays before they even get into the offensive zone, and he does that. And so when you look at his production, it's not there. 18 points, 45 games, it's still fine. You'll take that. But he's not a guy who's going to put up a point per game type of thing. You're not getting another the new Erik Karlsson type of thing. And that's perfectly fine, as we can all attest with Adam Pelech. Now, the thing with the London Knights is that they're probably going to go pretty far. But they didn't make one of those massive trade deadline deals that we'll get to with some of these other guys to bring in like this A-level prospect or player in the league. They didn't necessarily do that. They already have a deep squad, so they didn't. And so they're going into the OHL playoffs saying, we're good enough as it is, and we're going to go the distance with the guys we've got. I think they're going to make it. They're going to be hard-pressed to go through the Ottawa 67s, who are just seemingly dominating the OHL right now. But I think of the three guys, they have the best possibility of making the Memorial Cup from the OHL. The second player that I want to get to is Matthew Maggio. That's not a new name either. We've been talking about Maggio all year because he's putting up a ton of production. 98 points in 58 games with 47 goals. Excellent stuff from Yes, an overage player. And I don't want to hear he plays with 16 and 17-year-olds. I hate that argument so much because it's absolute nonsense. While factually correct, he does play with 16 and 17-year-olds. He's not strictly playing with 16 and 17-year-olds. And the OHL isn't flooded with 16 or 17-year-olds either. He's primarily playing against 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. So stop. If you're about to type, he plays with 16 and 17-year-olds, hit the backspace button or delete the comment and step away from the keyboard, because while it's factually correct, it's a real dumb argument to make. But when it comes to Maggio, yes, he's got incredible production this year, but he had some pretty darn good stats last year. 85 points, 38 games in 85 points, 38 goals in 66 games. And then when you're looking at this table, you're going to say, well, there's a year missing here. Mitch, what's going on there? He was playing at the Hockey Etan level in Sweden, where he put up 11 points in 19 games. It's a youth-ish league. It's a U20 league, but he was doing very well there. 11 points in 19 games. That's a pretty darn good return from him as a then 18, 19-year-old, depending, probably 19. No, 18 years old. 18 years old, he's doing 11 and 19. Excellent stuff from him. When it comes to his team, the Windsor Spitfires, they're just behind the London Knights with 82 points in 60 games. They've already clinched a playoff spot. They have not clinched a division. I don't think they will, because I believe they're in the same division as the London Knights. But you look at their production, 283 goals scored, which is the most in the league, I believe. It is, by like a healthy 30-goal margin. It's just absolutely ridiculous. But their problem is that they've got 235 goals against. This is not what you would call a defensive squad. It's, we dare you to score more than we do. And they made a hell of an acquisition to help them do that when they acquired Shane Wright. They sent all the draft picks over to the Kingston Frontenacs to get Shane Wright, and he has helped them when he's been healthy. But Matthew Maggio just keeps doing the thing. So when it comes to the Memorial Cup, can Windsor get out of the OHL and make the Memorial Cup? They have good chances, but I don't like their defense. When you consider the London Knight, if you're just matching up London against Windsor, I would prefer London. They don't score a lot, but they can defend a whole heck of a lot better than the Windsor Spitfires. Just look at that goals against difference. I prefer a defensive squad when it comes to 7-game series over a team that's just going to try to score more than you can, because I don't think that that's as sustainable, right? Preventing opportunities is sustainable. You can do that night in, night out. Scoring, that's sometimes quite a random event, and so you're waiting on luck if that's all you're hoping to do. It's working for Windsor in the regular season, but I don't see that happening as the competition increases throughout the playoffs. It doesn't mean they can't make the Memorial Cup. I just give them a lower chance than the London Knights. The third prospect I want to talk about is Tristan Lennox. That's the goalie who just signed his entry-level contract. So I spoke about him recently. If you want to go watch the video, I'll link to it in the comments here. He plays for the Saginaw Spirit, and I'm going to bring up his stats and talk about the team and what this means going forward. Now, they have locked in a playoff spot, they being the Saginaw Spirit. You can see it right there. They have 68 points from 60 games, so they're not nearly as good as the London Knights or the Windsor Spitfires. And that kind of corroborates when you look at the goals for, 213, and goals against, 210. Just not that great on either side of it. But when it comes to Tristan Lennox specifically, I shouldn't say but when it comes to Tristan Lennox specifically, his stats aren't that great either. 887 this year, which is basically the same as last year, 319 and 320. So the goals against average is going down. There's a small, marginal improvement here. And that he's not that great even just compared to other goalies. When you look at these average statistics, goals against and save percentage, he ranks 17th for goals against average and 27th for save percentage. Now, there's a couple of guys in there who've played like a handful of games, so you take them out, and he maybe moves up to 15 and like 25 type of thing overall for those categories respectively. Saginaw just isn't a great side, though, which is to Tristan Lennox's defense here. When you look at these shots against, the amount of rubber he faces, so shots, let's do that right here. When you look at Tristan Lennox, he's 11th with 1,133 shots faced on the season. Only 10 goalies have faced more shots than he has. which is pretty darn good. And he's got a save percentage better than maybe, I'm not going to say all of them, but 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3 guys. So, like, he's in the top 10 in terms of rubber faced and stops made, which is good. But his side just isn't, which is the problem for Tristan Lennox's aspirations to not only win an OHL championship, but even feature at the Memorial Cup. His squad just isn't good enough. As good as he's going to be, his squad isn't good enough that he's going to be able to paper over all of their problems going forward. He's a good goalie. I talked about it recently in the video when he signed his ELC, but it's just the team has too many issues, and then they sold off, like I said, their best player in Pavel Mintyukov, so it's just they're lucky to be making the playoffs and just making an appearance, but I don't expect them to go very far. At most, second round, at most. Player number 4, and this guy's going to the Memorial Cup because his team is hosting the thing, is Dalen Kepler. Kiefer? I don't know how to pronounce his last name properly. I really don't. Now, this Kamloops Blazers are having a really solid season. You can see that here. They've clinched their division. They've also clinched a playoff spot with 86 points in 57 games, 256 goals for, 164 goals against. Great record, 9-1, 0-0 over their last 10 games. Solid stuff. Kiefer, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But if anyone wants to tippy-tap it in the comments below, just let me know like the pronunciation key for his last name, because I'm going to butcher it the rest of the year, and I just don't want to do that anymore. When you look at his stats, 54 games, 31 goals, 61 points. Solid. For an overager, solid. And this flies in the face of everyone going like, overagers are always excellent. He's fine. He's good, but it's not Matthew Maggio levels. It's just not. So like, we really have to stop making that argument that overagers are always going to put up like insane production. They could, they might, but it's not a guarantee. Anyways, so when it comes to Kepler, I don't really know. Their side is second in the Western Conference, as you can see here. Seattle Thunderbirds are above them with 98 points. And therein lies a problem for them winning a WHL championship. I don't think that they're going to be able to get past the Seattle Thunderbirds. They're just too good in every way, shape, or form. But for Kamloops, they don't have to win a WHL. They really don't. They're going to the tournament anyways. So they might then face the Seattle Thunderbirds, right? I assume that the Thunderbirds are getting through the WHL and will show up at the Memorial Cup. So I don't know. That's going to be tough for Kamloops to beat this squad when it gets the Memorial Cup. They're going, though, so that's a big thing. And anything can happen. No one believed that the St. John Sea Dogs could do a darn thing at the Memorial Cup last year, and they just wiped the floor with everyone, really, Williams full specifically. So I don't fancy Kamloops' chances. They're a good squad, and they made a massive trade, sending basically all of the draft picks to get Olin Zellweger, who has been excellent with 36 points in the last 20 games. So they have a good chance, but man, Seattle is going to be hard to beat this year. So of the 4 prospects, I think that Kamloops has a better chance of winning a Memorial Cup than anyone else. I like the London Knights to get out of the OHL, not more than I like Ottawa, but they're going to be right up there. If it comes down to who do I pick amongst these 4 prospects to potentially win a Memorial Cup, it might be Dalen Kepler, I don't know. Anyways, who plays the Kamloops Blazers. They might win a Memorial Cup. They have a better chance of winning than anyone else in the prospect pool. That's the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following. If you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button. And if you have already or just about to do it, thank you.